Alright guys, it is officially time for the Deadman Mode to progress. So starting us out, it starts here in about an hour for me. I'm up at 2 a.m. if you haven't checked. So we're just going to go through all of the sigils that were released about 30 minutes ago. I've glanced over them and I'm going to give you my opinions and the ways they work. So starting us off, we already know these three. You have the Sigil of the Ranger, Sigil of the Feral Fighter, and Sigil of the Menacing Mage. The Ranger, upon dealing damage, you have a 10% chance to cripple the target's movement. The effect deals 5 damage over 6 seconds and drains a total of 30 run energy. It's double against PVM, so this is really good if you're going to be a Rag Ranger or if you're ranging a lot of your bosses. It deals an extra, 6 damage, an extra 5 damage over 6 seconds. That's not bad at all. The Feral Fighter, upon dealing melee damage, you have a 10% chance to set your attack speed to 1.8 seconds for the next 3 attacks within the next 12 seconds. And it also gives you bonus attack and strength XP. This is really good for most people. It's really good if you can get a higher tick weapon, like the Stadius Warhammer. The Elder Maul is the thing that really comes to mind. These things that have a really long attack speed suddenly go down to a 3-tick weapon, so they're attacking at the same speed of an event RPG in PvP or PvM, so it's going to be really cool to see. And then the last one, Sigil of the Menacing Mage. Upon dealing magic damage, you have a 10% chance to curse the target. The curse deals 12 damage over the next 6 seconds and heals you for the same amount. The target can only be under the effect of 1 curse at a time. This is really cool. It helps buff the magic side, no matter what spellbook you're on. I think that personally I would be taking the Sigil of Menacing Mage to start, and if I have to rebuild, I would then switch to the Feral Fighter. So yeah. Onto the actual ones that we weren't aware of first. So we have the Sigil of Resilience. Hit points restore 3x more than normal. One thing about all of the Tier 1 relics, they said on a Q&A or something, I was told that you should see about 8 of these a day if you're PVMing a lot. So my understanding is they'll be pretty common. You can put in an offer in the GE day 1 and expect to get one if you have a higher offer on them. But some of these will be more contested than others. Sigil of Resilience, I mean, that's good if you're a lower level account doing Wintertod or doing Pyramid. You wouldn't need a lot of food unless someone gets on you. Really good for like the 36 bracket world. 3 through 35 or 36 through 70. Sigil of Consistency, every attack does +1 damage to the target. I wonder if that includes zeros. That could be really cool. If that means even if your zeros hit a 1 damage, I mean, that could be huge for high defense, low HP bosses. Some quest bosses, Armadillo, things like that. Sigil of a Formidable Fighter, your melee increases. Okay, I mean, that one, I feel like that one was revealed ahead of time in the first blog that we got teased with. Pretty good. So that's just a good one to have. I mean, it's okay if you're melee. It'll be a good early game one. I think all of these are really good early game ones. The range one is the same sort of deal. 50% chance of saving ammunition, except when throwing chins. And your Mage actually is increased by 10. That's a big one, actually. I think 10 Mage boost is kind of an insane number. I wonder if it also applies to defense. Okay, defense. I mean, that one's a good one. Barrow's gear never degrades except upon death or after dropping the items. So Sigil of Barrows will be interesting. I don't think it'll see too much use because truthfully, your Barrows armor degrading isn't a huge deal. Like, you spend like 100k to get it back, and if you're using Barrows gear, you should be making enough money to repair it. But, they'll be common. They'll be super cheap in the GE. It might be cheaper just to use that one. You gain 20% more accuracy in all styles against non-enemies. This will be really good if you're PVMing. Like, bossing anything, really good. But the problem is it's wasted in PvP. But I do see this one being a very commonly taken one in PvP, in PvM, especially for people rushing raids. And you could also see people taking, like, that plus another Tier 1 day 1 to do some early raids or something like that. Sigil of Freedom. And this one's interesting. It's a one-time use sigil, so you use it and it's consumed, so it's a consumable, so you only get to use it once, but you instantly break any bind or freeze that you have. So whether you get VLS or whether you get ZGS spect or ancient frozen or binded, snared, or entangled, you get to immediately exit it, which is pretty cool. But it is a one-time use, so these will be I think they'll actually be pretty expensive. Sigil of the Enhanced Harvest, 50% gain to those 4 skills. I mean, we'll see that there's a better one in tier 2, but I do think that if you're a skiller, this would be a good one to take. 50% chance to send your newly gathered, or Sigil of Storage, 50% chance to send your newly gathered resources to a bank when doing any of those skills. I mean, these two things could stack, but we'll see there's better ones in tier 2, so I think these might be good early game, but they'll fall off very quickly as the tier 2 and tier 3 sigils enter the game. Sigil of the Smith, smelting ores, smithing bars, or making cannonballs. All items are processed at once. That one's really sick. We saw a modified version of that in Twisted League, where it was combining these 4 or 5, no, all of these sigils into one. But I think if you're a cannonball alt doing smithing for people, or you're doing it on your own alt, this would be a really good one to put in the GE for like your 10k or maybe even 20k, swap in a little bit of money, and it might be a really good one to get. Cleaning herbs, I think that one's a little less good than the smithing one, but the Sigil of the Alchemist could be interesting. Sigil of the Fletcher, if you're doing Wintertod, this is the one to grab. Sigil of the Chef, if you're going for a cooking build, you know, I mean, that one's going to be insane. Sigil of the Craftsman, if you're a crafter rusher, I mean, these ones are all... Rune crafting one's really interesting. You get 5 times the amount of runes you normally do. If you're doing nature rune crafting, this is an insane sigil to have. Okay, Sigil of Stamina, you're permanently under the effect of stamina. I mean, that one's insane. You're questing, you're doing anything, you buy this relic. It's really good. Questing, raids, I think this one will be one of the ones that's you grab even in the late game and it'll hold its value. Potion Master, I think that this is the one that I saw that I think people will take into the 1v1s at the end as a tier 1 sigil. A 20% chance to not consume any relics or anything like that is insane. 1 second here, guys. That is my alarm to wake up. Alright, we're back. Sorry about that. I think that one's insane. If it applies to brews, it applies to restores. This one will be insane because it'll give people extra food in the 1v1s. If you don't have this, I think you have an issue. Eternal Jeweler, meh. We already saw that one. It was a tier 3 relic in leagues. It was okay. I do think that it does have a lot of usage. Slayer Ring, really good. You can just buy 1 Slayer Ring and have it forever. Pretty cool. Necklace of Patches, good for questing, good early game, and then you can sell it off late game, so it'll probably drop in price a lot. Sigil of the Treasure Hunter, that one's interesting because it stacks with one of the tier 2 ones. We'll get to that later. But 2x as common on clues, not bad. Sigil of Mobility, teleports do not consume runes and do not gain any experience. I don't know about this one. If it means you don't need the runes in your inventory, this one could be amazing. But if you still need them and it just doesn't use them, it's kind of meh. Sigil of Exaggeration, all skills permanently boosted by 5. It has its usage. If you want to boost for whips, I mean, it's not bad for Slayer. You can't use it for quests or anything like that, so it's kind of meh. The tier 2 relics, if I had to guess, I'd say you see 1 or 2 a day. So they'll be common, but you'll have to be doing high level PVM, so I don't think we'll see a lot of them in the game until day 2. First one, Sigil of Prosperity. You have a 20% chance to receive loot from a unique Deadman loot table. I don't know what that's going to mean. If you're farming sigils, or if you're bursting, that'll be a really good one to get. Probably insane. Sigil of Special, or if you're in the wilderness, that's another really good one. The thing is, Slayer, you're already guaranteed to hit the Deadman loot table a lot because of superiors. So, I don't know. Sigil of the Specialized Strikes. Special attacks cost over 10 energy. Will have the energy reduced by 10. This makes me feel like Dragon Throne Axes. Or is it Throwing Knives? The ones that cost 25 spec. Anything that costs 25 spec. Dragon DDS. These things will be insane. The Throwing Knives will be really good because it's just one after the other. And you'll be able to do like 8 of them, 8 ticks in a row, stacked with some of the ranging relics, could be insane. Sigil of the Porcupine, activated sigil to recoil 4 damage to the attacker for every hit you take. In fact, lasts 30 seconds, has a 2-minute cooldown. This will probably be one we see in the 1v1s. Really good for escaping a PK. If he's on you, he's hitting himself, oftentimes similarly to how hard he'll be hitting you. If you also have a recoil equipped, I mean, anytime he hits you below a 6, like, I mean, he's getting hit for the same amount. So he won't really be, taking too much, but he'll have to eat food, which will then allow you to DPS him back and maybe get an escape. Sigil of Binding, you get a 75% magic buff on your next binding spell within the next 12 seconds. If it's successful, Sigil goes on cooldown for 5 minutes. If not, 1 minute. So, pretty good for PKing, pretty good for snaring to try to get away. Sigil of Escaping, 75% chance to resist the first bind effect for the next 12 seconds. If the bind was not successful, 5-minute cooldown. If it binds you, the Sigil has a 1-minute cooldown. Okay. Another really good one for escaping. I kind of feel like the binding one will be better, but of course you have to have mage gear on, so if you don't have that with you, Sigil of Escaping is really good. Ruthless Ranger, Fighter, and Major we went over already. As I said, I'm probably choosing Major to start, and then if I die, I'll be rebuilding on Fighter. I personally think that the Ranger is really good if you're going for a rag range bolt and you just want to hit low-level pyramid climbers and stuff like that. I would go that build and just bolt people down at the pyramid and kill them. But I think it'll fall off late game. Sigil of the Dwarves, 50% more experience in these skills. Meh. Obviously, if you're doing any of these skills, this one's really good. I used to be a construction grinder, so this skill would be my favorite, but truthfully, I don't think skilling's very good this route. Obviously, if you're doing cannonball ulting, you probably want to grab this along with the one up on top, along with the Sigil of the Smith. Those two stack together phenomenally. Sigil of the Elves, you gain 50% in these skills. Agility, really good for starting out, kind of falls off late. Hunter, if you're a chin farmer. Farming, if you want to just do farming, I mean, there's still money to be made. You can get to magic trees really early. Sigil of the Barbarian. The Slayer one's huge. I think that this will be the one most people go after. 50% more XP in Slayer is amazing. Sigil of the Gnomes, 50% more XP in rune crafting could be big. The rest of them are kind of meh, I'm gonna be real. Sigil of Nature, choose your own farming contracts. Could be interesting. You could get a lot of seeds that way. You could farm Hespori seeds that way. I might be looking at taking something like that if I end up doing farming contracts. But we'll see. Sigil of Devotion, drop bones are automatically buried. Ashes are automatically scattered. Prayer XP gained from these is doubled. It's considered a slaying relic, which is interesting. But that one makes sense. So getting, 2x on these, it means you're going to have a lot of prayer XP if you just passively train it. It's not a bad skill at all. But I think it's kind of overshadowed by others. But if you get this one, I would highly suggest using it, the Sigil of Devotion. I wouldn't actively pursue it. Sigil of the Forger, you always gain double resources. As I said, these are just literal better ones than the Sigil of Mining and stuff up here. The Sigil of Enhanced Harvest. I think that you stack this one, it'll just be better. Same thing as earlier, Sigil of the Elves. They're just better versions of the ones above. Wait, no, my bad. Sigils of the Forger, they're just better than the ones above. Sigil of the Garments. This one's interesting. I think it has value. I think it has a lot of value. It's overlooked. It was teased in the thing. It was teased in the blog or in the video earlier today, but I think it actually has a lot of value because it has Zealot's robes. It has all the bonus XP ones. I believe it has the Rogue's outfit. So if you're thieving, if you're doing a lot of different stuff, I think that this one actually has a lot of value to it because there are little things that you might overlook. Warm clothing in Wintertod, you don't have to worry about that. So cool stuff. I think that Sigil of Slaughter is going to be insane. You always get to pick your Slayer task. So, I mean, this one's insane. Like, you get to pick Krakens as soon as you get there. You get to pick Abbey Demons. You can pick really quick tasks. You can pick slow tasks. All that fun stuff. And 30 Slayer points is how much it costs to skip. So if you get to Hydra, this is a phenomenal one. This is a really good, end of day one Sigil if you can manage to get your hands on it. Clue scrolls are stackable. I mean, if you like clues, that's a great one for you. Sigil of Versatility. Activate the Sigil to instantly swap your spellbook while outside of combat. You get 99 mage, you kind of have this, but I guess if you're PKing and you want to telegrab after you get a kill, this one saves you an inventory spot. So the Serpent, we already saw that one. Cure Venom, you can do it for 1 minute every 3 minutes, meaning Zulrah, or if you're fighting someone who has the gear, you have a minute to escape before you need to start drinking your own anti-poisons or anti-venoms. Activate the Sigil. I think this will have a lot of power in the late game, but I'm not sure. Activate the Sigil to set your run energy to 100 and stop it from draining for the next minute. Once it's activated, you have a 2-minute cooldown. So I think if you have this, you'd never need stams for solo raids. Pretty interesting. Sigil of Preservation, stats boosted above your base level, will not drain over time. If you go for boost, this is really good. I think this is really good for combat skills. This one I think we'll see a lot of use as well. Onto the tier 3 relics, I think you'll see one of these every 2 days. I don't know. It's a random number I'm throwing out, but I think it has its value. Activate the Sigil to 100% guarantee accuracy on your next spec. 2-minute cooldown. I mean, you know, AGS. There's so many ways this could be used. If you're PVMing Dragon Warhammer, Stadius Warhammer, AGS for PKing, even for PVMing, there's so many things that could work. I'm curious if it guarantees it for both hits. So if you're using a DDS, this spec could actually be insane because you're guaranteed to hit both DDS hits, maybe. You know, Gmaul, it not quite as useful, but you're guaranteed to hit, so not bad. Sigil of Prowess Protection, decrease the amount of damage from attacks of a given combat style by 30% when using the correct prayer for that style. Increase your damage by taking against the wrong combat style by 40%. High risk, high reward. I don't like it because I live in Alaska where there's super high ping and I will always pray wrong. So unless you're up against rag bolters, I think that this is a high risk, high reward. People on good ping and really good PKers will abuse the shit out of this, making one-ticking your weapons even more important. Sigil of Aggression, all attacks deal 20% more damage, but you take 30% more damage from all sources. High risk, high reward kind of thing. I don't know. I don't like that the tier 3s tend to be high risk, high reward, but we'll see. Sigil of the Rampage, alternating combat styles increases your rampage count up to a maximum of 5. Consecutive attacks of the same will reset the counter. Each rampage count increases your damage and accuracy by 5%. This will be really cool for bossing. There's a lot of bosses that you can use both range and melee on, maybe. Range and mage, perhaps. But obviously this is huge in the 1v1s. Tribid gets an insane buff because you get an extra 5% increase, up to a 25% increase. Sigil of the Skiller, you gain double the experience in all skills. I mean, you stack that with the Slayer XP ones or anything like that, and your already XP multiplier, that's going to be insane. Obviously, it deserves to be a tier 3 one. Sigil of Remote Storage, all things are always sent to your bank. I mean, come on, that's amazing. You can be somewhere with pretty much a full inventory of food, and anything that you harvest gets sent to your bank. Sigil of Remote Storage, resources gathered from... Oh no, we already did that. Sigil of Last Recall. Activate the Sigil to teleport back to your last location. This was the most OP relic that we saw in Trailblazers League, and rightfully so, it makes its return. I think that this will be the most sought after Sigil in RuneScape. Sigil of the Guardian Angel. Death does not consume a life. The Sigil is consumed. Instead, you will lose your items if you were scald. However, you will not drop a bank key. If you're PKing, this is the Sigil you want. Interesting though. So, but I'm guessing that if you weren't scald, you don't lose your items. So that could be amazing. We'll have to see how that one actually plays out. Anyways, guys, that's all of them. Sorry, it's a 19-minute long video, but there's a lot to cover. Those are my initial thoughts on everything. Some really OP, some lackluster. High risk, high reward. I'm not a fan of, but if you are, then it's going to make Deadman Mode really exciting. Anyways, guys, I'll see you later.